Efforts to secure the southern border, the migrant crisis is shifting west. For the first time in decades, San Diego is now the top hotspot for migrant apprehensions. It has overtaken Tucson with nearly 20,000 reported encounters over the last 2 weeks. Let's bring in California Republican Congressman Darrell Issa, who serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thank you. Why do you think San Diego is now a preferred illegal crossing point?
Because there's no attempt to stop the people. San Diego used to be the preferred area, and then we put up the wall. We were the first to have a border fence, and then the first to have a triple border fence. But now that the gates are open, and contrary to the previous segment you just had on, when I've met with people at the border from multiple countries, including China, Russia, and so on, they have said they're here for jobs. They haven't said to me, and I'm there with translators, they haven't said they're here seeking asylum, and they still get to stay in. The policy today, they may say that they deport a great many, but the reality is they just have to show up and they're welcomed in. Until we return to Mexico, which we have a right to do, we are going to continue to have it. And like I say, a fence does no good if the gates open with a welcome mat.
And so I understand your point that it's policy that needs to be changed. In the meantime, what adjustments will San Diego Border Patrol agents make in response to this surge?
Well, the brave men and women, not only of the Border Patrol, but of ICE and Coast Guard, they're spending most of their time and most of their effort, and it is productive, but it's against the tide. They're going after fentanyl. They're going after methamphetamines. San Diego's the #1 importing area for drugs. And I have 100 miles of the Mexican border, along with one other congressman for all of San Diego County. Whether they come in through the water, they come in around the fence, out in the desert, we have an onslaught of that. Every month, thousands of pounds are seized just inside trucks that are trying to get in with false floors and false walls. That's the epidemic that at least the men and women of these agencies are still able to do something about. But if we're not able to stem the flow, there's an awful lot of backpacks full of drugs that are getting in, and it's poisoning. Over 100,000 Americans will die this year from fentanyl alone.
And besides policy change, does San Diego need more federal aid, and if so, in what form?
No, we're a sanctuary state. We've asked for it. Our $73 billion deficit speaks legions when you're in the highest tax state in the union. So quite frankly, it is not appropriate to send money to a state that is part of the problem, not part of the solution. If you want to send money, send it to Texas, who's trying to do the right thing against against a president who won't let them do it. That would be where I would send the aid. I'd send the aid to the National Guards and so on that are at least having some success in keeping at least some of the criminal element out of Texas.
I understand your sentiment, but what do you say to your constituents listening who may say, wait a minute, what are you telling us? We deserve it because of what they're doing in Sacramento.
What Sacramento is doing is creating the problem. If Sacramento is not willing to change, look, the Lord helps those who help themselves. If you're bound and determined to sink a ship, it's not up to the Coast Guard to come help you. At the end of the day, you scuttle a ship, it goes down, and you go with it. That's what we're doing in California. We have the highest taxes, we have the highest deficit of any state in history, and in fact, we're still calling ourselves a sanctuary state filled with sanctuary cities. And bear one thing in mind, people are constantly talking about the homeless crisis. The homeless crisis are not, for the most part, these aliens. The fact is, we're already providing federal money mostly, but some state money to house these migrants for a period of time, and that is also causing a problem. In San Diego, hotels are completely shut down and then filled with migrant workers. They're not being detained; they're simply being held, or accommodated until they find other housing. And when you brought in over 10 million, that's an awful lot of housing that's being eaten up by new residents.
Hope you can get it solved. San Diego is a beautiful place. Congressman Darrell Issa, thank you very much for joining us.